What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on Rotogrinders.com. Happy to be with you talking another golf tournament. We've got the Mayakoba, which has changed sponsors like 5 times in the last 6 years. I believe it's the Worldwide Technology Championship. We'll just refer to it as Mayakoba. That's the one constant we have at this event. And that's the tournament we will be breaking down for you here tonight, / this morning, / whenever you happen to be listening. I am Justin Van Zuiden, aka STL Cardinals 84. I'll be the host of the show for you, and I've got my usual partner, Notorious Derek Farnsworth, beside me. Noto, what's going on? How was last week for you?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Certainly could have been a lot worse. But yeah, excited to be here. We got some game series or some World Series action going on right now. Game 6. We got some NBA action. NFL Week 9 in full swing. So a lot of good going on in the sports world, and yeah, lots of sweat, which is always fun and always taxing from a content perspective.
Yeah, this time of year is not enviable for those that don't have to do that multiple sport grind. So it's taxing, but certainly worth it if you ship some money and win a GPP or something along the way. And last week we talked about the Bermuda Championship. Boy, Sunday couldn't have gone worse for me. I didn't have any Patrick Reed, didn't have the 2 Aussies at the top. I had a ton of Pendrith, who was in position there to win and shot 5 over on Sunday, didn't make a single birdie. So everything kind of went downhill for me on Sunday. I had some sweats that quickly evaporated with Pendrith falling to 5th, and some of those other guys making a move up the leaderboard. But we saw on Thursday, and we talked about it last week, that was expected to be pretty high winds. And that first day, that morning wave shot like 3 over par, and there ended up being about a 2.5 stroke advantage for those that teed off in the afternoon, which I didn't really see coming, and I didn't, split up my lineups enough to take advantage of that potential weather draw. So the one time, I didn't really play it, didn't really see it, just expected it to be windy all day. It pretty much ended up being a significant edge there. So that was one thing I missed last week.
Yeah, man, I saw it and I thought about it, and then far too often I've changed my lineups, late Wednesday night, and then there ended up being very little, if any, weather edge, and so didn't end up making stacks, and definitely should have. And I think it was Thursday afternoon. Patrick Reed hit it out of bounds on the par 5. He got a drop, so he's hitting his 3rd into the green. I don't know how far he was, and he sinks it for eagle. And I'm just like, okay, well, that's probably a precursor of what I am to expect the rest of the week, because I had no Patrick Reed. But yeah, some decent weekend lineups at least to get a little bit of money back. But yeah, overall, I was watching the Sunday coverage, and it was just brutal. I can't imagine playing golf in some of those conditions, let alone shooting 9 under. Scott Stallings 9 under on Sunday. That was pretty incredible. I thought Patrick Reed was going to do enough to get it done at the end. It's at least nice to see him playing well again. I know he's a very polarizing figure in golf, but he at least brings some eyes to the television, and that's always good for golf. And then, yeah, Herbert, I didn't see that one coming. And I heard today, he was bottom 50, or he was outside the top 50 in fairways gained and in greens and regulation. So on a course where we thought you had to hit a lot of fairways and greens, he did it all around the green and on the green, which is pretty
the
crazy.
Chipping heroes. No, it's quite ironic. Him and Reed both up there, the hero chips. Yep. I guess that's a good thing. I couldn't tilt the shot tracker, through the 4 rounds to get upset about it. But yeah, Herbert wasn't on him at all. Played him a few times over the summer. Outside of the Euro Tour, he hadn't really done much on the PGA Tour. So it was just one of those weird Sundays that went the wrong way. And sometimes those are the breaks. You got to put 4 rounds together. That's part of the reason why the DFS golf sweat is, one of the best there is, and can be one of the most frustrating. It's got to be 4 days, not 1 day, not 2 days, 4 days. But, leading a GPP after Thursday or Friday in golf is almost a kiss of death. But any other takeaways from last week? And like you mentioned, that pretty impressive round by Stallings there on Sunday.
Good call by you going to Taylor Pendrith. I know he kind of blew up on Sunday, but yeah, we were all talking about it being an accuracy course, and you were just like, hey, all these guys have talent. He makes a ton of birdies. So If it doesn't play out the way we expect, then, might as well get some exposure to him. So good call on that one. And I'm glad Patrick Rogers didn't win, because I would have really felt that one playing him so many times after all these years and missing out on
it. I like him this week. We'll talk about him a little later on. So I think he's an interesting value. Yeah, Pendrith worked out, was looking really, really good after Saturday, and then he made a bunch of putts and birdies, and just didn't make any on Sunday. And sometimes that happens. And you're in the final group and on the PGA Tour, and it's, I'm sure nerves played a role in that too, and the conditions. It was tough course when it's windy. That was basically the only defense that that course out down there in Bermuda had, and it showed its teeth when it got pretty breezy there. I mentioned the Thursday split. So the Thursday the morning wave was 3.1 over par, and the afternoon wave was basically right at even par. That was the windiest day of the week. And then in round 2, both waves shot like 1.75 strokes under par. Round 3, again, it was about 2 strokes under par. And then round 4, back to over par. So just goes to show you that some of those courses that are exposed to the wind, we can still see the elements create an advantage. And that's what we saw last week. So kudos to any of you who happened to stack the weather draw correctly. It paid off if you got the right guys in there for sure. All right, let's pivot forward, and we got a little bit of a stronger field this week. Probably one of the strongest that we've seen during the fall swing, outside of the limited field events. As far as the full field events go, this is probably the strongest field we'll see. We've got 132 in the mix this week, and we've got some top names. And I mentioned at the beginning of the show that the sponsor has changed. I remember talking about Unifin quite a bit last year. Was a one and done, I guess, as the sponsor. OHL has sponsored this tournament before, so it's gone through the hands of a few different sponsors, but Mayakoba is where it's at. El Chameleon, the golf course that will host and has hosted for the last decade or so. So we do have some course history data to go off of. And what are we looking at as far as the course that these guys are going to see here this week?
Yeah, so it's one of the shorter ones by PGA Tour standards. You certainly don't need a ton of length off the tee. Hitting fairways here, just like last week, on paper seems to be very important, especially if you look at some of data golf stuff. Par 71, 7,000 yards. There are 3 par 5s, and really cool course. I mean, some of it goes through like some vegetation, and then you get like looks of the ocean, and there's even a cave on one of the holes right in the middle of the fairway. So it's a pretty cool course, especially to watch on TV. And basically, you just don't want to stray too far offline off the tee. And if you keep it in play, you should be able to make a lot of birdies. The greens are easy to hit. Even if you miss the greens, scrambling success rate here is really high. The greens themselves are past Palm, which are very slow. I think it's going to read around 10 on the stim meter. So guys can be very aggressive with their putts. We've seen very few 3-putt percentage, over the years. And you're going to have to make a lot of birdies. The average winning score here the last 5 years is around 21 under par. And each of the last 5 winners have been in the top 11 in greens and regulation the week that they played. So going to want to hit fairways, going to want to hit greens, and kind of take your chances with putters. We've seen some bad putters like Grillo, play well here over the years, but you're going to have to make putts. It is a birdie fest. So you're going to have to make putts. But yeah, it should be fun. No shot tracker again. We do get the modified shot 2 from the fairway or whatever. So it's better than nothing. But yeah, I think you're going to have to make birdies. You have to go low. And it doesn't look like there's going to be much wind, at least at this point in the forecast. So I do think it's going to be a very low scoring event.
Yeah, the winning score has been between 17 and 22 under, I believe, each of the last 8 years here. So that's just kind of a benchmark of what to expect. And we have a bit of a stronger field, I'd say, this week compared to, what we have seen in the past at this event. At least it feels a little bit stronger, particularly, at the top. And we get down to the 6K range. There's some, questionable names, or really any field is going to seem strong after what we had last week because you just don't see a whole lot of events that are as weak as what we saw in Bermuda. But that's the nature of the fall swing. And, some people just can't stand it. And some of us, like it. And I think, a point that we can make now is getting to know a lot of these guys that we have either later in the summer and maybe guys that played on the Euro Tour a little bit more, like say Guido and Mito Pereira and guys like that. And now these new Corn Ferry Tour graduates that have their tour cards like Nick Hardy and Taylor Pendrith and Ramey and some of these guys that we've been playing the last month. Keep in mind that having some knowledge of these players and their games is going to help all of us that are playing now and listening now and doing the research now when it comes to, say February and March, right? When NFL ends, and you've got, the PGA Tour ramping up and getting to the early majors and the new PGA Tour schedule that gives us some pretty strong events in February, March, and April. Like the Super Bowl weekend is always the Waste Management Phoenix Open. So you start to see some strong golf fields, and knowing these golfers before the average casual fan does, and before the average casual person's putting their DFS money in, I think there's something to be said about this, giving us an edge, say 2 or 3 months from now.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And we're starting to get at least a little bit of a big enough sample to where we can, kind of pick out the good ball strikers, the guys that are good putters, and those types. So I like that call a lot. And yeah, just paying attention, knowing, who's on top of the leaderboards, who's making moves. I do think eventually it'll come in handy. Hopefully this week, I could use a big one if you're giving them out.
Oh, sure. We'll hand them out. It doesn't cost me anything to hand them out. Whether they come true or not, I don't know, but we can try. All right. Agreed on the course. Pretty cool course. Another, one where you don't need distance. Basically everything that Derek mentioned certainly holds true. And we've got some more course history to look at and go off of this week compared to what we have with some of the other recent events. So let's dig in. I mentioned we've got some bigger names at the top. We've got our usual 6 to 7 above 10K on DraftKings. We can probably split this into 2 angles here. So let's talk about, say, the top 3, because they're going to get the most ownership. And then we'll talk about the other 10K options after that. So Justin Thomas, Victor Hovland, who's the defending champion, and Abraham Answer are your top 3. And projected, let's see. Right now we have Thomas at 19% ownership, Hovland at 21, and Answer at 23. So do you think, if you're single entry building, cash game building, you want to try to pick one of these top 3?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of the win equity's up there. And honestly, I don't think you can go wrong with them. I started the week wanting to play Answer, and also have a bunch of them. Top 10 in 4 of his last 6 starts, accurate off the tee, very good with his irons, good course history here. So certainly no issue with Answer. But then I took a step back and was just like, why would I not just play JT? I mean, he's a better golfer long-term. He's won a lot more on the PGA Tour. He's got just as good a form coming in, 4 straight top 22 finishes and T12 here last year. So for me, that's enough to give the slight edge to JT over Answer, but certainly can't go wrong with either of them. I think in MME, you try to get as much as you can. And just naturally, I'm going to be lower on Hovland because of that, but that's scary. I mean, the best ball striker in the field for sure. And the guy that just continuously, rounds out top 20 finishes, and he's obviously the defending champ. So I would go JT, Answer, Hovland, but I don't think there's a wrong answer. What about you?
Yeah, definitely not a wrong answer. In GPPs, I did write up Answer and Hovland. So again, I like all 3. I'll keep all 3 of them in my player pool. I think if you take the metrics and the $500 discount, I think Answer is probably the best blend with safety at this point. But I like all 3, like you said. Hovland, just puts on a ball striking clinic every week, and he's learning to kind of get past those weeks where he's brutal with the short game. Still hiccups from time to time, but yeah, all 3 of them grade out really well. I will probably have the most Answer of the 3, and then naturally, I mean, I think these 3 are so far ahead of the rest in this range. Like, nothing against Finau, Hatton, Horschel. They seem a little overpriced. I know Horschel comes in pretty good form, but just when, Billy Horschel at 10-1, when you got Answer at $600 more and Hovland at $800 more, like, yeah, it's just hard to justify that. So the rest of the 10K range, I probably won't have a whole lot of, because I want to make sure I keep Answer, Thomas, and Hovland in my GPP pool. So what about you in the rest of that range?
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, look at Brooks. He just hasn't been that great outside of the majors over the last couple of years. And he's lost at least one stroke on approach in 4 of his last 5. So his irons aren't working right now. Wouldn't really consider him an accurate driver of the ball. Same goes for Finau. But I guess you could, play the Puerto Rico narrative. We saw, Hovland win there and then win here. Hovland or Finau obviously won in Puerto Rico and has a pretty good track record here. So don't mind him in tournaments, but I agree with you on Hatton. And yeah, Horschel, I don't know what he's doing up here. I get the course history and all that, but I'm not paying that much for him. So I agree. And then back to the top 3, I will note JT probably has the most volatility of those 3, just because he's by far the least accurate driver of the bunch. Hovland's 5th in good drive percentage. Abraham Answer is 1st in this field, and then JT's 57th. So he has the better iron play, but definitely more volatility. He could be finding those, those forests or the water quite a bit.
By the way, I meant to mention this at the start of the show and I forgot. We spent like 5 minutes last week trying to figure out who this Scott Gutschewski person was.
Scotty G.
And I hadn't heard of him prior to the show. And, I'm sure Noto didn't know a whole lot about him other than what the model was saying. And I look like Thursday afternoon after the PM wave tees off. And here's this guy tied for the lead. And I'm thinking, we sat here and laughed about it for 5 minutes on the show. DB was texting us at the Wednesday night or Wednesday afternoon saying, you got to play some now. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I X'd this guy out and here he is. And it's going to be this hilarious story. He finished 39th, respectable finish for a guy who was basically minimum salary across the board. Would have been pretty cool if he'd kept it up throughout the week. But hey, 39th, we can't complain. And we got to mush somebody this week too.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I think he finished 2nd in green and regulation too. So he's definitely my type of guy. Make a lot of greens and then a lot of 3 putts. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Thursday round that played pretty difficult. He made just 1 bogey and just couldn't make enough birdies throughout the week to stay up inside the top 20. But it was pretty fun.
And then Dan texts us and is like, there's no way this guy's 45 because his picture on the PGA Tour site looks a lot different than his picture if you just Google him. So, yeah, it does look like he aged about 10 years in his PGA Tour profile pic.
It does. It really does. You think you pull up a senior tour leaderboard or something. Anyway, hey, we can't disparage the man. He put up a respectable finish for anyone who may have rostered him as a result of our fun discussion last week. So we'll see. If Noto's got somebody else in the model that we can, we can find some more information on the Wikipedia page before we get off the air. That segment works better than the Guess the Golfer segment that we used to do, where everyone we always picked it terrible. So, all right, back on track. Again, not a ton of interest in the rest of the 10K plus guys, largely because of the fact that we like the top 3. But moving into the 9K range, and this is where you can tell that this field has a little bit more depth than what we've seen in some of the events over the past couple of months. Scheffler, solid play. Sometimes we've seen him up in the 10Ks. Aaron Wise has been playing pretty good. Patrick Reed broke out of a funk with that second place finish last week. You've got Lowry, Wolf, Zalatoris. Taylor Gooch has been playing pretty well up at 9K as well. So this is a pretty strong range. Who are you liking in there?
Yeah, it's weird seeing Aaron Wise priced up here, and he deserves it 100%. I mean, 12 straight made cuts, 4 top 10s during that stretch. He's got some really good course history here too. He's had a second place here last year, so I get it. I haven't been playing him up to this point, so I don't think I can hop on now at this price. But yeah, he's been playing some great golf, and he's finally putting pretty well. He's always been pretty good tee to green, so definitely a guy that I don't hate, but I probably can't pay that price for him. I like Scheffler. He's kind of been middling performances the last couple outings. I think he's interesting. If he was in a little bit better form, he would be priced up there in the 10K range. And then the guy I like the most is Shane Lowry. He's been making a lot of cuts. He's been one of the better iron players in the field. And similar to JT, if he can keep it in play off the tee, I think he's going to make a ton of birdies. Just because his iron play has been so good. So I like Lowry quite a bit. It doesn't look like he's going to be too popular. 7% looks pretty good to me. And then Wolf's been playing better. He's a guy that I'm rooting for, but it's kind of weird. He's never going to rate out well in models because he's been, so bad in the last couple of seasons. So I would include him in my MME player pool. And then obviously got to mention Zalatoris. It just feels too cheap. A guy that, has been 10K in most of these swing season events. Recent form hasn't been great, but certainly a field I think he could contend in.
Yeah, and I think he could be the one guy that not a lot of people play just because the form has dipped and you kind of forget about him. He's not priced among the top 4 or 5 guys. That's where he was in a lot of the weaker fall swing event, weaker field events. And there's just not as much chatter around him now that it's easy to just not click that name, even though he's priced a lot more affordably than what we've seen with some other events. So I think Zalatoris is interesting at 9,100. Definitely a strong GPP play, especially since I don't love a lot around him. We talk about not being used to Wise at 9,600 or even Gooch at 9K, and Wolf I've always struggle with getting him right, and I don't really think this is the right spot to play him, particularly at 9,200. So Zalatoris will definitely stay in my GPP pool for sure. Any other
Patrick
takes
Reed?
on that? No comment. I got no comment on Reed. Now I don't know what to do.
I don't either. Whatever we decide on, everyone else needs to do the opposite.
What's he done here? Has he played here? I'm gonna look that up, but he might have it faster.
He 84th, so miscut in 2017 is all I got for him.
Last 50 rounds, 99th in this field in strokes gained off the tee. I can't do it, but
that's mostly 10. Just like the last 3 events, though. He lost like 6 at the Tour Championship, but I will say in my course comps, number 1 in the field.
Fine, let's play some. Why not?
So everyone has a fade him then. If me and you are playing him.
You all fade him. Noto and I will play him, and we'll sacrifice one. I like Scheffler. I think in terms of upside, he's been a little more inconsistent lately, but I like targeting him in these events that turn into birdie fests. I think this is a spot where we can play him. So Scheffler, regrettably Reed, probably play some of him. Zalatoris, play some of him. Otherwise, probably not a ton of exposure to this range for me. And I don't mind. I'm like Lowry at 6%. I think is interesting just for ownership more than anything. But you probably don't have to get more than one guy in here, at least in a cash game type of build, or jamming in a bunch of the 9K guys doesn't feel optimal with a little more win equity at the top. But I don't know, tough range to gauge. A lot of unpredictability with a lot of those guys. Like even Zalatoris, Wolf, Reed, Wise, Scheffler. I mean, all those guys could easily miss a cut or top 5. So I'd say, well, maybe there is still some win equity there, maybe a little bit more than I just admitted, 2 minutes ago. A little more inconsistency is maybe the better way to put it.
Agreed.
All right. Let's see. Let's move down into the 8K range. We've got Tringali, Matt Fitzpatrick, last week's highest priced golfer on the board. That it's not like he was horrible, but 30th place for the guy that was at the top of the pricing scale. That's going to lead to him being under-owned, I think, this week. We've got Fitzpatrick at 15% as the highest owned player between 8,200 and 9K. I don't know. It would surprise me. I guess Henley 18%, but I think people will ignore Fitzpatrick a little bit more here. Sergio playing here for the first time, which I think is interesting. Ricky Fowler back up to 8,600 again. Then you got McNeely, Noren, Keegan Bradley. Those are some of the names you'll see in kind of the mid 8Ks. Who are you looking at in there?
Yeah, so you're not going to like this take at all. I'm going to be playing some Ricky Fowler. And it's a gut pick. I definitely can't make a strong argument for him. He's clearly overpriced. I mean, I had to give him a 15% boost in my model, and he's still the 31st best golfer in the model. So clearly not a good stats play, but he has a second here. He's got a 216, the recent third where he led the field tee to green. I just think, I don't know. I just got a gut feeling on him. And I used to be pretty good at getting the Ricky Fowler weeks right. And then I kept trying it when he was bad. And so that was impossible to get him right because he was bad every week. So I'm going to try it again. I'll play some of him. I like Sergio. He's a guy that, one of the better ball strikers, a guy that's going to put himself in some good positions off the tee. He can be more aggressive than most because he is one of the better total drivers. And then at the bottom range, Keegan Bradley, very accurate off the tee, very good with his irons. The same goes for Russell Henley. I think they're very comparable plays. I'll have some of both, but I like the lower ownership on Keegan a little bit more. And then Mito, always interesting, just continuing to churn out good finishes. T30 last week, certainly no issue with that. And I also like Zuiden, another guy that was in the 10K range last week that, made the cut, wasn't great, but I certainly don't mind going back there. He's one of the better putters in the field. And again, he's made 27 straight cuts worldwide. So if you need safety in this range, you're not going to find a guy, with a longer cut streak than that.
Yeah, and he's just another one that just kind of faded a bit there on Sunday last week. As I bring up last week's leaderboard and see all my golfers that have the down position arrows for their final round. It's funny, like all my guys who made the cut, the Zuidenhout minus 14 spots on Sunday, Dylan Wu minus 36 spots, Mito minus 8, Fitzpatrick minus 8, Svensson minus 12.
Can't believe you have them start. I have to get rid of them right when they do that.
Pendrith minus 4, and then Scott Stallings plus 45. One of my guys played well on Sunday, but he wasn't in my best couple of lineups, so it didn't work out. But lots of red arrows on Sunday. I will be I'll be getting rid of them now. Anyway, back to the task at hand. I'm making myself relive Sunday's round needlessly here. All right. Keegan, I think is interesting. I like the little blurb that you wrote up on him in our Rotogrinders lineup HQ tool. If you want to unlock the power of Rotogrinders Premium, invite you to give it a try. This is the time of year to do it. We've got like 6,000 sports going on, and it's about to be 6,001 because college basketball starts this weekend. Thankfully I don't have to do content for that anymore.
Yeah.
But 1 year back in the I don't want to say infancy, but the earlier days of DFS, finished number 1 on the college basketball leaderboard on Rotogrinders, and I don't think I played a single contest last year. It's funny how times change. But so I got that in my little trophy case, but don't play as much college basketball anymore. But anyway, we've got gurus. Sean helps the college football content, college basketball, NHL has started, NBA has started, football's in full swing, baseball's wrapping up, and golf, obviously, you're here, still going on. So great time to try out Rotogrinders Premium. You can get the combo package with all those sports in it. Or choose, a single sport or your individual sports, whatever you like. Build it on your own. You can get $10 off your first month of RG Premium by using the link in the description if you're watching on YouTube, or we'll drop it in the chat. And you can check it out on the site. So $10 off your first month using that link, and hopefully you'll like it and stick around. So again, never better time to do it. Lots of sports going on right now. And while you're at it, while you're down there, you're looking for the link, like and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. Like this video, give us some thumbs up, and keep us rolling in the YouTube algorithms there. All right, let's keep on rolling then. I agree on Keegan a little bit. Always like Mito Pereira, so I can save you all if you look at my content for any length of time or watch this on the show, I like him pretty much every week. So we'll spare you another rundown of him this week. But I think the lower end of this range is definitely the most interesting. Bazuna, who you mentioned, Mito, Keegan Bradley. We got Henley getting some ownership. So I think I like those guys. And I like Sergio just as a contrarian play in GPPs. Sergio only plays the events that he wants to play at this stage. And it's a little bit weird that without much of a history here, he's coming to play, but recent stats are pretty good. And I think he's interesting for tournaments. You talked me on to Reed. You're not talking me on to Fowler. I have a one of those two limit for
Go Fowler then. Go Fowler.
So no Fowler for me. All right, let's move into the 7Ks. And again, still some strong options here. Seamus Power's been in the 9Ks. So is Charlie Hoffman for most of the fall swing. Neiman has been in the 9Ks, even up to 10K at times. Last week's winner, Herbert, is in here. So Justin Rose is 7,900. I've tagged up Seamus Power. I think, he tends to play really well in these weaker field events. A little bit stronger field this week, but he's logged back-to-back, top 25 finishes, and he's all the way down to 7,700 this week. So Power is the guy that I like in here. What are you looking into the mid to upper 7Ks?
Yeah, I like Seamus Power, probably the most upside of these guys. It's weird seeing Justin Rose in this range. And he does have a couple recent top 10s. I won't go there myself. I never get him right, but certainly an interesting name if you want to, take a flyer on him. Neiman, finally, we can play him in a cut event again. I talked about it a lot in those no cut events. He just loses so much equity because he just makes a ton of cuts and doesn't have a ton of high finishes. So in those no cut events, I like to fade him, especially when he's popular. But I think you can go to him this week. And then, yeah, you mentioned Lucas Herbert. I mean, nobody's going to play him. We saw Brendan Todd win these events back to back. Can he do it?
I think he can. I mean, there's no doubting his talent. The consistency's just been, what's been lacking, and hasn't played a ton on the PGA Tour. I played him a lot over the summer, and it didn't really work out. But the talent is there, and something to be said for gaining some confidence. And the travel worries me a little bit, plus the win. But it's also a pretty weak field, and there's not a ton you're going to love in the 6Ks. So yeah, I might buck the trend. I might play him some in GPPs. I mean, I'm a fan, so it was nice to see him win.
I get the feeling he'll have to finish better than top 50 in green regulation this week if if he's going to repeat. But yeah, I think he's interesting. That's
what are his
sure.
odds? Do you have that handy?
I heard he was 150 somewhere, but 130 on DK right now.
And I mean, I would imagine that's higher than.
Yeah. Varner right below him's 40 to 1. Everyone else about 60 to 80.
Yeah. So the Herbert's, nobody's gonna play him. It's at least interesting.
Interesting. What are you doing with Grillo? A guy with great course history.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that the upside just doesn't seem to be there because we know he's gonna lose strokes putting all the time. Maybe this is a course where he doesn't. Like, it's hard to tell because we don't have the shot link data.
Mm-hmm.
Is this just a random course where he tends to putt well? Dude's gained 38 strokes on the field the last 5 years here. You can't. I mean, it's got to be worth something.
Yeah, and a lot of those are included in this, but he's got like the third best stroke gain per round on past Follow green courses. So there's only a couple of them. There's Corrales and.
I'm sure I get sucked in. I almost always do, especially with that course history.
Maybe we can get a quote from him this week if he's one of the interviews saying that he likes the greens or something.
Show us all your putting from this course, please. Yeah, fine. It'd be a little chalky, but not. I think he might end up being a little chalky by the time it tees off, but I don't mind him. I think I'd play him over most of the other guys in that kind of vicinity, which is kind of weird to say. I do like Rogers though.
Yeah, I want to hear this because it's usually me trying to get you guys
playing. I don't, Rogers is weird because we tend to think of him as a guy that's on these courses where he can utilize his driver and, it requires a little bit of distance, is a little wide open, where we tend to like him. And so, going into this week, I was just like, just let's look into him a little bit more. But he's got a 6th and a 4th in the fall swing. So this is not what we are used to seeing from Rogers. A lot of times it's okay, makes a decent amount of cuts, goes on a stretch where he misses a bunch of cuts, and then makes a few in a row, but the finishes are 25th, 28th, 30th, something like that. But 6th and a 4th in 2 of his last 3 starts. And he's got 3 top 20s here. And so, I mean, obviously he's played her 7 times. So that course history has some value. 14th in 2018, 17th last year, made the cut the year before. And he's 7,400 and he's playing pretty good golf right now. So when you take the 2 top 10s in the fall swing, plus the price, plus the fact that, the course history is pretty good, and you wouldn't think of this as a course where he would pop, we got him at 7% at 7,400. I'm in for that.
Yeah, I like that. And obviously we don't know how to quantify this stuff, but he didn't make the FedEx Cup playoffs, and then he had to go to the Korn Ferry Tour Championship to retain his card, and he finished 15th, got his card. So maybe that was just a relief. And then you mentioned the couple top 10 cents. So I don't mind that play. I don't mind Johnny Vegas right above him. Another guy that we typically like on bomber tracks, but the irons have been very good recently. And then Strillman just seems like the perfect course fit. I mean, he's a guy that hits a ton of fairways, hits a ton of greens, and some really good, numbers in terms of ball striking. So don't mind looking at him. Anyone else in the 7Ks?
How about chalk Russell Knox 2 weeks in a row?
I bet him top 10 instead of playing him in DFS.
He's got 3rd, 9th, 33rd, 23rd in his 4 trips here, and he finished 12th last week.
I get it, but yeah, I don't know. I can't do it.
So what'd you say? You bet him top 10?
Yeah.
1 stroke away. Does not count.
No, this week.
Oh, this week. Okay.
Instead of playing chalky.
Yeah. I got it. Well, good thing you didn't bet him last week because he finished 1 stroke short.
Yeah.
And he bogeyed the par 5 17th. So that would not have set well with me anyway. Boy, those bets are brutal when that happens. Kudos to, pour one out. Anybody that had that last week. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't play him last week. Probably hard to go back there again, but he does kind of stand out at 7,300. We've got Streelman at lower ownership, and as of right now, I'm with you. Pendrith is the interesting one. Like, what is that Sunday birdie free? The losing the lead. Like, that's where it's tough for me to gauge with these guys that have just got their PGA Tour cards. Is that going, having the lead and finishing tied for 5th, which is still a pretty nice payday for a guy just onto the PGA Tour? Is that like a momentum builder, or is it a oh my gosh, I let a W get away from me? I don't know. I don't know. Of course, everybody's mental state is different. I guess the pessimist would say, now he's going to suck. And the optimist would say, hey, he's building confidence. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with Pendrith. I just take my W from last week with him and move on and not play him this week. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's what I would do. Not the best course fit. Similar to last week, he obviously bucked that trend, but the wind was a lot different than I was expecting. And yeah, you don't know. I mean, if you tell him before the week that if he finishes, he was going to finish top 5, he would take it every time. But at the same time, if you told him he was leading and then finish 5th, he wouldn't on Saturday night. So who knows if it's going to, let him go, keep it going, or if it's going to, go the other way. But given the course fit, I think I'm going to be off of him.
Yeah, that's fair. I probably will end up there as well. I've seen a little buzz around Hendrik Stenson for some reason this weekend. Not a ton, but I've seen him mentioned a few places.
So I'm guessing this is European Tour, but 4th, 3rd, 15th, and 30th, the last 4 events.
Is it the senior tour?
I don't know.
I mean, we haven't seen him. We haven't seen him on the PGA Tour. It seems like he's like withdrawn every time he's been registered for a PGA Tour event lately. I don't know. I can't do it.
Yeah, all in Europe.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and move down into the 7K and under range. I don't have a ton of names in here, but who are you looking at?
Yeah, last week I liked a lot of the guys in the 6Ks. This week I don't like very many. I think Chris Kirk always seems to rate out well in the model. He's made at least 4 straight cuts at this event. He's made at least 5 straight cuts on the PGA Tour. I usually get him wrong, but I am going to be playing some of him this week at 6,700. And then I don't really have a lot of names. There's like Zach Johnson and Hank Lebioda at 6,200, which is kind of crazy. I'm not going to be playing them, but it's weird seeing them that cheap. In terms of the model, other guys.
If I play Hank Lebioda one more time, I'm going to have to sell my house. I can't do it right now.
I know. I can't.
He's just missed so many cuts. He was so good. He was like 30% owned at 9,500 that one week or whatever. And I don't think he's made a cut since. It's baffling to me that it can go from so just on fire to nothing that fast. But I don't know. I've went down with that ship, and I think that it's been in for repairs, and then we're sailing a different direction now.
Yeah, I played him last week. It didn't work. So other guys that the model likes, Guido Migliozzi. Haven't seen much from him recently, but he is a very talented young golfer. Charles Howell has the best course history over expectation, according to Data Golf. Thomas Dietrich, another European Tour guy, and then Ches Reavie, who does fit the, hitting fairways and be good with your irons. He's got some pretty good course history as well.
Yeah, Guido is interesting. He was in some really, really poor form. I didn't play him last week, but I followed his rounds a decent bit. And now I really don't know what to do, because he started with a 72, then he shot a 65, and then he shot a 69, and then he finished with a 77. Now, the 72 was in the tougher wave on Thursday, and then the 77 was in the tougher conditions on Sunday. And then the 2 rounds with the easier conditions, he shot 65, 69. And we're expecting, easier scoring conditions this week as well. So now that his price is all the way down to, what is it, 6,900, 6,900 on DraftKings. We got him at 4% ownership. I'm intrigued by the way he played in the easier conditions last week. I really wish he wouldn't have finished with a 77. But at the same token, like Guido was 22nd heading into Sunday. If he would have shot 3 or 4 under on Sunday and finished 10th, okay, if Guido would have finished 10th with a good Sunday round and been 6,900 this week, he'd be 4 times as owned as he's going to be. Yeah. But since he finished with a 77, everyone's still ignoring him. So I think that's the play I'm going to hitch a few wagons to this week. We'll ride the Guido train a little bit. And then the other one, I mean, if you just want a relatively safe play that I think can get you a made cut, I think Tyler Duncan is okay. We haven't seen him in 4 weeks, so he's rested for a month. Had 4 straight sub 70 rounds at the Sanderson Farms the last time he teed it up, and he's made the cut the last 4 years here with 11 strokes gained on the field. So Tyler Duncan at 6,400, I think, is at least worth a peek as a punt play. So those are a couple names that I like. Anything else on your end?
You know who always plays well at these coastal tracks, these alternate field tracks, is Bryce Garnett. I mean, won the Corrales, top 35, and every time he's played this event, we have him at 2% ownership. So 3% ownership, sorry.
My guess would have been Scott Brown. That's who I thought you were getting at.
Ooh, yeah, Campos. Puerto Rico king, Scott Brown.
Scott Brown and Campos, the 2 guys that show up for the Puerto Rico swing every year. Who was that now? I forgot who you even said.
Bryce Garnett.
Garnett, that's right. Let's see.
But I don't think you need to dip into the 6Ks too much this week.
Yeah, you don't. 6,500. I mean, you got all those guys in the lower end of the 7Ks that are like 40, 50, 60 to 1 to win. Streelman, Knox, Varner, Rogers, Grillo, all those guys. I think you can pay an extra 400 or 500 and get 2 of those guys in your lineup, and you're probably a little better off. So, yeah, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up. Before we get out of here, just want to make a quick mention of Prize Picks. So they didn't have any early golf stuff up this week when we looked right before the show. But usually they'll put that up, and some golf props and plenty of other sports as well. You can sign up at Prize Picks, prizepicks.com, or download the app. Use promo code Grinders, and you get a deposit bonus, 100% deposit bonus up to $100 with your first deposit on Prize Picks today. So check that out, prizepicks.com, download the app. They should have their golf stuff up a little bit later. Otherwise, NBA, football, college football, plenty of good stuff on there for you to check out. So with that, we are going to be down to 2 weeks left in the fall swing. And the December break is always good for those of us that are grinding multiple sports this time of year. And trust me, the 4-week break from golf feels like 4 months because we're so used to doing it each and every week. So we've got the Houston Open and the RSM Classic to round out the fall swing the next 2 weeks. 2 kind of standard events that we usually have. Although I think they might be playing the Houston event at a new course this year, if I remember right. Let's see, Houston Open. Well, I gotta check this out now. Unless I'm just misremembering the old course. Has it always been at this Memorial Park for Houston Open? Do you remember?
Memorial Park. That's wasn't one of the playoff events held there one year?
Yeah, it was at Golf Club of Houston. So 2019 was the last time it was held at Golf Club of Houston. 2020 moved to Memorial Park. Ironically, $34 million donated by the Houston Astros Foundation. Astros Golf Foundation. I was going to say baseball on the brain there too. Astros Golf Foundation with input from Brooks Koepka. Interesting. So yeah, it's only been held one time at the new course, which was won by Carlos Ortiz last year. For some reason, I don't remember a whole lot about that course. I'll have to dig in before next week. In any case, Memorial Park will be hosting the Houston Open for the second time next week, and then the RSM Classic, as usual, at Sea Island to close out the fall swing. So 2 more events. We'll have you covered for those. And until then, we'll go ahead and sign off for now. For our producer, Eli, and my co-host, Derek, a.k.a. Noto, we appreciate you tuning in and checking us out. Good luck in all your contests. Enjoy the rest of your first week in November, and we'll see you back here next week. Same time, same place. I'm Justin. Take care, everybody.